Imagine it's Christmas Eve 2002. Families are gathering, homes are buzzing with excitement, and the world feels warm with holiday cheer. But for one California family, everything would soon shatter. A young pregnant woman, Laci Peterson, seemingly vanishes without a trace. What began as a missing persons case quickly spiraled into one of the most shocking and talked about murder trials of the 21st century. Today, we're diving into the story of Scott Peterson, the husband accused, tried, and convicted of murdering his wife and unborn son. Was he a cold-blooded killer or a man caught in a web of circumstantial evidence? Let's unravel this chilling tale. On the surface, Scott and Laci Peterson seemed like the perfect all-American couple. They lived in Modesto, California, a quiet suburban community. Friends described Laci as warm, bubbly, and always smiling. Scott was handsome, charming, and worked in the fertilizer business. The couple had married in 1997, and by late 2002, they were expecting their first child, a boy they planned to name Connor. Laci, 8 months pregnant, was eagerly preparing for motherhood. To the outside world, it looked like they were building a picture-perfect family. But behind that polished image, cracks were already forming, cracks that would soon explode into public view. December 24th, 2002. According to Scott, he and Laci had a normal morning. She planned to walk their golden retriever while he went on a solo fishing trip at the Berkeley Marina. Nothing unusual, or so it seemed. But later that day, when Laci failed to show up at her family's holiday gathering, alarm bells rang. By evening, her mother reported her missing. Friends, family, and neighbors rallied together. News cameras quickly picked up the story, broadcasting Laci's smiling face nationwide. It looked like a community united to find a missing woman. But investigators were already looking closely at one person, her husband. From the beginning, Scott's behavior struck many as odd. While volunteers searched desperately for Laci, Scott appeared distant, unemotional, almost cold. He told reporters he was hopeful she would come back, but his tone seemed flat. Then came a bombshell. Just weeks into the search, a woman named Amber Frey stepped forward. She revealed that she had been dating Scott Peterson, believing he was single when Laci disappeared. Even worse, Scott had told her, just days before Christmas, that he was a widower, and this would be his first holiday without his wife. But Laci was still alive at the time. That revelation shattered the public's sympathy for Scott. What kind of man tells his mistress he's lost his wife before she's even missing? For months, the case dragged on with no sign of Laci. Then in April 2003, the search ended in heartbreak. Along the San Francisco Bay shoreline, just miles from where Scott said he had gone fishing, two bodies washed ashore. One was a small, partial fetus believed to be Connor. The other was an adult female torso, later confirmed to be Laci. The gruesome discovery sealed Scott's fate in the eyes of many. To investigators, it was no coincidence. To the public, it was confirmation of their darkest suspicions. On April 18, 2003, police arrested Scott Peterson. He was found near a golf course in San Diego, with his hair dyed blonde, carrying $15,000 in cash, camping equipment, and multiple cell phones. Prosecutors painted it as a man trying to flee the country. Scott claimed he was just going golfing with his brother, but to many it looked like he was running away from the law. Scott's trial began in 2004, and it quickly became a media circus. Courtrooms were packed, headlines screamed every detail, and television pundits debated daily. The prosecution argued Scott killed Laci at home, dumped her body into the bay from his fishing boat, and lied to cover it up. Their motive? He wanted freedom, from fatherhood, from responsibility, from his marriage. Amber Frey testified, and recordings of Scott's phone calls to her, while Laci was still missing, were played for the jury. In them, Scott sounded calm, almost casual, as if living a double life. The defense countered that there was no physical evidence tying Scott to the crime. No blood, no murder weapon, no eyewitness. They claimed Laci could have been abducted by someone else, but the jury didn't buy it. In November 2004, Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder for killing Laci and second-degree murder for killing Connor. A month later, he was sentenced to death. The case didn't end with the verdict. For years, Scott's legal team filed appeals, arguing that media bias and juror misconduct tainted the trial. In 2020, California's Supreme Court overturned his death sentence, citing flaws in jury selection. However, his conviction still stands. Scott Peterson now serves life in prison without parole. To this day, he maintains his innocence, and some still believe he may not have received a fair trial. But for most of the public, the evidence, his lies, his affair, his suspicious actions, tells a story of guilt. The Scott Peterson case remains one of America's most haunting true crime stories. It's a chilling reminder that even the most picture-perfect lives can hide dark secrets. Behind the suburban home, the smiles and the holiday plans, there was betrayal, lies, and ultimately, tragedy. So what do you think? Was Scott Peterson truly a cold-blooded killer who sacrificed his wife and unborn son just to reclaim his freedom? Or could he have been a man condemned by the court of public opinion long before the jury reached a verdict? Cases like this force us to confront perceptions are shaped by the media. Remember, this trial unfolded in the early 2000s, a time when 24-hour news cycles were exploding, and sensational true crime stories dominated headlines. Every detail of Scott's demeanor, every recording of his conversations with Amber Frey, and every courtroom appearance was dissected on live television. When the world is already watching you under a microscope, it's hard to imagine how any jury, or any ordinary person, could remain completely unbiased. Did the nonstop coverage create a narrative that was impossible to escape? Or did it simply highlight what investigators had already uncovered? Some argue that Scott's lies, his affair, and his suspicious actions painted a clear picture of guilt. After all, what kind of husband tells his mistress he's already lost his wife, when in reality she's still alive and missing? Others, however, continue to question the lack of direct forensic evidence tying him to the murders. There was no blood trail, no murder weapon, no eyewitness testimony of the crime itself. These gaps have fueled debates for years and left lingering doubt in the minds of some who follow the case closely. That's why the Scott Peterson story is still talked about decades later. It's not just about one man or one tragic family. It's about trust, betrayal, and the uneasy feeling that sometimes justice, while decisive, may never feel entirely clear-cut. It forces us to reflect on your thoughts, theories, or even your doubts in the comments below. Your perspective might spark a whole new discussion. And if you found this story as gripping and thought-provoking as I did, don't forget to give this video a like. It helps us bring more true crime stories to curious minds like yours. Make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the cases that shock the world. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware of the stories unfolding around us, and above all, stay curious.